What it do, baby? It's your boy Baki back with another one. So, I've been doing a lot of reactions and stuff like that. I just wanted to have a good fun video and kick it and chat with you guys. So I thought it'd be fun to rank every single Castlevania game they've ever made. Now, if you don't know, every year I basically beat every Castlevania game they've ever made when we get through the incentives and everything else. So there's not a Castlevania game I pretty much haven't played, even the arcade ones, the MSX version. We pretty much played them all. So I thought it'd be fun to do rank them all. And what'll be even more interesting is what I'll do is I'll do them in order of timeline, if I can remember it correctly. I may mess it up, but we'll do order of timeline and then we'll do the spin-off games, all right? So, in order to start this off, we're going to start with Lament of Innocence. First off, if you haven't done so, and you'd like to support your boy, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't. This is just going to be a fun little video. So first off, we're going to start off with Lament of Innocence. That is the first game. You're also going to kind of get a little history lesson as well in this if you'd like. So Lament of Innocence is the first Castlevania game in the timeline. It's not the first Castlevania game ever created, obviously. The first one's on the NES, but that is actually the 6th game in order of timeline. So I thought it'd just be fun to just kind of go around and do it timeline-wise. So Lament of Innocence is first. You play as Leon Belmont. You don't get to fight Dracula. You actually create Dracula, being Leon's best friend. I absolutely love this game. This is one of my favorite Castlevania games they've ever made. And I think the reason why it works so well for me is partly because it has a little bit of Devil May Cry. It's like a third-person action-adventure game while still having a little bit of Castlevania, Metroidvania-ish to it. But very simple, though. Not complicated in any real way, shape, or form, but it's just a fun ride every time I play it. And I enjoy it. It has a bunch of secrets. The real cool thing about the game is Leon is extremely powerful. He's actually one of the strongest Belmonts, I'd argue, personally. There's 7 different orbs in the game, right? And each orb does something different with each special weapon. So if I have the cross does something different with the blue orb, orange, red orb, black orb, white orb, green orb, yellow orb. You see what I'm saying? Like every orb allows you to do something different. So there's so many different special weapon abilities that you can really feel varied in how you play the game every time. In fact, I've played the game, I think we've done 4 marathons and I've beaten the game maybe 5 times, and every time I've done it different with different special weapons, and every time it feels great. The game just has so much progression for your character. Leon starts off, he can't do anything. By the end of the game, you can flip 4 or 5 times, you have double jumps, you have so many moves to your ability. And as you see, I'm hovering over S already because that is where this game belongs. This is one of my favorite Castlevania games. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I'm just gonna give it a straight up S. It's going to the S tier right from the jump. Let's see. Next up, let's see. It goes Leon Belmont. After Leon Belmont, we have Trevor Belmont, right? Which is Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Dracula's Curse. What can I say about Dracula's Curse? Dracula's Curse is another game that I think is actually really well done. I think they solidified a lot of things with the first Castlevania game, and Simon's Quest being the second Castlevania game in the NES era. They completely derailed and went somewhere else. So I think it's a return to its roots and is better in almost every single way than the original Castlevania. It is absolutely one of my favorite Castlevania games. It is actually going up there in the S tier as well. We don't even need to really dally too much on that. There's not much that can't be said about that. You get to play as alternate characters. There's alternate routes to take. The difficulty is hard but fair. It's one of those games that I really think as you get better, like you really see how good the game is the more you play it. It's one of those games that's hard as hell at first, but what game isn't on the NES era? But once you really start nailing it, it gets more and more incredible because you can kind of see how the game works and you can move through it a little bit easier. Those games used to take me like 2-3 days to beat during the marathon. Now I can beat them in pretty much like 1 stream, maybe 2 streams. You know what I'm saying? Like as the progression has gotten better, I've noticed that the game's just a really solid and well-made game. So after you beat Dracula with Trevor, you then move to Dracula's Curse, which is Curse of Darkness. Excuse me, that's what I meant to say. What can I say about Curse of Darkness? Curse of Darkness is essentially a kind of clone of Castlevania Lament of Innocence, but completely changing up the format on how the game is played. Instead of playing a Belmont, there is no Belmont here. You can play as a Belmont secretly, but there's no Belmont here. You're playing as Hector, and Hector is a devil forger, so he has the ability to use monsters at his will. This game is sort of like a Monster Rancher or something, if you will, with how you use these creatures. They help you out on the field, but you still have really, really solid combat in this game. The combat is actually very, very fluid, and the cool thing about this game, Curse of Darkness, is that all of the weapons are so varied. You have to do special things to earn them by stealing. There's these opportunities to steal from enemies, and if you steal, you can get like rare items and even sometimes rare weapons. And there's just such a wide variety. There's like rapiers, there's hammers, there's joke stuff. I mean, it's just so varied in the variety that you have in the game. Unfortunately for me personally, the game is bogged down a little bit with the evolution of your familiars that you earn. So you have to like get them to evolve a certain way if you want to progress. Now, I've gotten better at it now, but if you wanted to 100% that game, it's a little grindy and it's necessarily not the most fun, but it's still a great time, and I almost always enjoy it. How I've been playing it recently, though, is playing it as Trevor Belmont and skipping and not doing the Hector. You play as Trevor going through it. It feels great, especially when you're playing him in order, right? Because it feels like a sequel to this. It's like you go from playing, like, you play Leon, right? Then you play Trevor, and then you play Trevor again. So it feels really, really cool. So while I do really like this game, I think it is held back a little bit, but I still think it's a pretty damn solid game. It's either going to go for an A or a B for me in this game. Let's leave it at B for now. So after that, we then hop to the Game Boy game. So the first game up is Castlevania The Adventure. This game is absolutely just boring as hell. It's not even that it's a good game or a bad game. It's just a boring game, bro. It's pretty much gonna go into the F tier for me. It's really just so boring. It's one of the most boring games I've ever played. There's not really much to it. You're just walking, constantly walking. You know, there's difficulty to it, but it's just so boring of a Castlevania game. And I think that, you know, what could you do with the Game Boy? You know, I mean, maybe I should give it a D just to be fair, because like, what could you do with the Game Boy? But it really is just a super, super boring game. Not really the biggest fan. All right, next up is Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge. This game is not much better, but it is, though. They improve on a couple ways. You get special weapons, and if you play with the Game Boy Color version, you actually get the game in color instead of like that ugly green that you get in the first game. It's still just not that much better, though. There's not really that much to these Game Boy games, you know, even though ironically later on the Game Boy games would have some of the best games of the franchise, but, you know, I digress. So yeah, it's going for a D for me on that one. Next up, we would have to do, what game we're on? We're on Castlevania, the original Castlevania on the NES right here. So the original Castlevania on the NES is a solid game, bro, through and through. It's still one of my favorite ones to play. I actually really, really enjoy it. It's got some jank. It's got a little bit of roughness to it, you know, especially when you get knocked back. You know, both of these games, the knockback is insanity. But, you know, it is of its time. And once you play it, it's fair. It's pretty fair, man. It's not like you got to start the whole game over. If you had to start the whole game over in Castlevania, I could understand it being like really, really rough. But they start you back pretty fair. You know what I mean? Start back to the beginning of that zone or whatever. So it definitely is an A for me. I love that game. All right, so after Castlevania, we got to do Simon's Quest. We're playing as Simon Belmont. So the original story goes Leon, then Trevor, then Hector, who stops Dracula one more time. Then we go to Christopher Belmont, and then Christopher Belmont again. And then we go to Simon Belmont. So Simon Belmont does his thing. He gets hit by Dracula, and he's actually scarred by him. So now he needs to bring Dracula back in order to kill Dracula again to get rid of the curse. So even though there's no curse in this game's name, it still kind of is about a curse. Simon's Quest is another game that I really enjoy. Every time I play it, granted the redacted version, granted the original version is busted in a way that I think really isn't fair to the player. But if you're playing the game, I imagine, especially like the translated version and stuff, or just the redacted version even, this game is actually really solid. And I'm going to rate it off of that instead of playing it just straight off the NES version, because of the fact that, like, that game just was under terrible translation, and that's not really fair to the game to be like, well, if you play the American version, it's fucking trash. But it's like, I mean, that's just because of the fact of all the clues that you don't understand. But if you understand the clues, or like if the clues were correct, the game is fine. Does that make sense? So I'd still give this game an A. I know a lot of people don't like Simon's Quest, but I actually think it's a really solid game. And it's this is one of the easiest Castlevania games, and really started the whole Metroidvania whole ordeal for the Castlevania side of Metroidvania. You know, there's a lot of backtrack here and there, go this way, go that way. You know, you're moving back and forth, not just keeping it linear. So really enjoy that game. All right, so after Simon's Quest, Simon does his thing. He ends up having a kid, and then that kid ends up having a kid, and that this is his grandson. This is Juste Belmont. So the next game is Harmony of Dissonance. Now, Harmony of Dissonance is a tough one because I really like some of the aspects of this game, but every time I play it, I get lost. Every time I play it, I run through some really strange situations that just are frustrating to do and deal with almost every single time. And that could be my fault or my problem, but it's just something about this game that just kind of I don't enjoy as much. I don't know if it's the fact that I'm tapping R and L all the time. Sometimes that's fun in combat, but it's kind of just annoying to press all the time. Every time we play this game now, though, we play it with the mod on, and it's magnifique. You understand? But without the mod, like playing this game naturally, it's pretty rough. I would probably give it, like, honestly, like a C. It's average. It's got a great story, and the interesting part is you're doing, again, when you're playing these games in order, this is the cool part, right? You're doing the exact same thing that you were doing in this game. At the end of Harmony of Dissonance, what are you doing? You're gathering the rib, the nail. It all lines up. So it's a very interesting story. So you get to play as Belnadas. Juste is also really strong too. Let me not just like slide over that. Juste is incredibly powerful, and it feels great to play him. I just really don't like the design of the map. I'm not a fan of the design of like the double map and all that stuff, and layover of each other. Like, it just doesn't really bode too well with me. Not to say it's like impossible or anything. It's just not my favorite of the Metroidvanias. So after that, we go to Rondo of Blood. We get to play as Richter Belmont, the technically strongest Belmont that's ever existed. Where does he have Rondo? This dude has everything on this one. Good job. This guy's good. Okay, so we got Rondo of Blood right here. Rondo of Blood is absolutely incredible. We're not even gonna sit there and act like it isn't. It's one of my absolute favorite Castlevanias by far. It's so fun, and it looks so good. It sounds amazing. There's multiple routes. There's multiple characters. There's so much to do in the game, and it's so fun. And it's a big learning curve, but it's a great time every time I play it. I even love getting the characters, doing the Maria playthrough. Like, everything feels so good in this game. This is one of my absolute favorite games. In fact, I would put Rondo in front of Dracula's Curse if we had to already name it like that. Like, this is my favorite of the old school kind of Castlevania games, you know, because it did have so many extra elements to it. It's one of my absolute favorites. So yeah. So after Rondo of Blood, we then transition over to Symphony of the Night, which is you know, everybody's favorite game on the planet, right? That's everybody's thing, right? So let's see, where the hell is Symphony? So for me personally, I really, really like Symphony of the Night as well. It's one of those games that I think every time I play it, it's so fun because you can play it so many different ways. You can play it with so many different weapons and choices and decisions, and every time you play it, you can make it a little bit different in your own. The couple things that kind of rub me wrong is like how you deal with magic and stuff like that. A couple of the spells. It's not necessarily like the best of the Metroidvanias to me personally. Um, but I do absolutely love this game. So I'd probably put it at like, A. I give it an A. I absolutely love this game, and I even love playing it as Richter too. I've done the Richter playthrough as well, so there's a lot of fun to be had with this game, and the replayability is like really, really there and strong in that game, especially if you're using different weapons and stuff, which I love. You know, that doesn't exist in like Harmony of Dissonance. Like, you're using the whip, you know. So after Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the bond of the whip is now broken. There is no bond of the whip with the Belmonts no more. So you'll notice for the rest of the games, there are no more Belmonts. Rondo of Blood is the last true Belmont game for a long time. Actually, it might be for the rest of the series. We'll discuss that as it goes along. So technically, next up, I believe, is Order of Ecclesia, if I'm not mistaken. Because we have to bring back the Belmont clan. Order of Ecclesia is one of my absolute favorite games. I'm not even going to sugarcoat you this. This is going on the S tier for me. I absolutely love Order of Ecclesia. You know what I like about it? I like that it is segmented off and it gives you little sections and moments to like push through things. And I like that the fights are difficult and that there's like memorization to the fight. Like, people struggle on the crab. I was watching my buddy struggle on the crab when he was playing this game on his stream. And I was just like, man, I beat the hell out of the crab. Can't even touch me when I play this game because I've done it so many times. Like, he's just so obvious where the moves are, you know. And if you have certain moves, you can destroy him. Like, I was using the zombie walk where the zombies just walk all over people. Oh my goodness, bro. I absolutely love this game. I love Shinoa, and I think that she's actually a really, really strong character, and I love her gameplay. Her gameplay is really, really fun. If you notice, a lot of what Shinoa does actually is in like Bloodstained Ritual of the Night even. You know, like that dash move that you get at the end, like that's what Shinoa does to get around her maps when you want to finalize everything and then you want to really 100% the game. 100% the game means you got to do all the missions, but it feels good to do it though every time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always enjoy doing it because it's just so fun to just like explore that world. And I just love the combat. I love being able to swap weapons on the fly and be able to change into different, you know, custom abilities instantly. That's magnifique. So Order of Ecclesia is one of my absolute favorites. So after Order of Ecclesia, remember, I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. So if I mess up, I apologize. I believe next is Bloodlines. So next up is Castlevania Bloodlines. I love this game. One of my favorites by far. Castlevania Bloodlines is another awesome game. And remember, there's no more Belmonts. That's why the whip is being held by Jonathan Morris. Now, what's interesting about this game is you can play as two different characters. You can play as Eric Lecard or Jonathan Morris. Jonathan Morris controls the whip. Eric has the like holy spear or something. But he can jump like directly up and like do a charge move that makes him like invulnerable, whereas Jonathan can do like diagonal swipes. This game is really, really challenging, but also really, really fun, and it looks amazing. It does some pretty awesome stuff with the Genesis. It tries to do like reflecting water and really interesting things. So for me personally, the Genesis game is gonna go up here high, pretty high. I'd actually put it probably in front of both Castlevanias. I really, really enjoy the Genesis Bloodlines. That game is so fun to me. Really, really fun. I usually play as Eric though. The reason why is because we know what the story of Jonathan is, right? So we already know like what happens to Jonathan. He essentially like dies at the end of the game. We've done it before, but we play as Eric just for the sake of the next game in the timeline, which is Portrait of Ruin. And you actually see Eric in this game. He's the guy that's helping you. I think his name's Wind until you find out that his name's Eric Lecard. So again, all these games line up beautifully timeline wise if you play them in this order here that I'm giving you. So Portrait of Ruin is one of those games that I don't know, man. The more I play it, the less I'm really digging it. There's some really fun puzzles and stuff, but upon repeat plays, it doesn't really hold up too well. I still like it though. Like it's not like D or F material. Like there's very few Castlevania games that are D or F aside from some of these like these real side projects. But it's hard to describe. The fact that you can swap characters is lovely and it feels good, but it also is one of those games where it kind of is a little gimmicky and it doesn't really bode well. Like you have to earn certain abilities, which you always have to do in these like Metroidvania games or whatever, but it feels like you have to earn certain abilities and progress the game a certain way. And the portraits going inside of them, some of those areas suck, like that carnival area with the clown and shit. All that shit is, I don't like any of that. So like that's what really knocks this game down for me. I'd much rather play Harmony of Dissonance over Portrait of Ruin. All right, next up is Aria of Sorrow. Not even gonna sugarcoat it. Bam, this is going up S. I like this more than Order of Ecclesia. I'd put this right here. This is another S tier game for me personally. Absolutely love this game from start to finish. It's always a great time. You can do so many things. There's just so many souls and stuff to earn. There's so many ways to play, and the fact that there is a little bit of RNG in it involved makes it feel even better when you're getting souls that are dropped, because that might be the first time you've gotten it if you're playing the game again, or you know what I mean? Like if you play it again and you do another one, it might not get the same repeat. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities and moments in that game to have a really varied gameplay on the replayability value. And playing as Soma Cruz is just amazing. Like Soma's art style in this game looks so good and similar to Lament of Innocence in my opinion, whereas in the next game they change up all the art style. The art style in this game was like perfect, bro. It was perfect. I don't know what they were thinking with the next game, but this game is absolutely incredible. From start to finish, it's one of those games that I truly love, and it's a lot of this is what inspired Order of Ecclesia, how you move around and your ability to like change things. You know, a lot of that all came from that game first, was developed first. You understand? So Aria of Sorrow is one of my absolute favorite games. Absolutely love it. Every time we play it, I have a great time. All right, next up on the list is Dawn of Sorrow. Now look at this anime, bro. I'm gonna show you a bigger picture, but look how ugly this looks. This looks so terrible. Dawn of Sorrow's okay. Here's the thing. I've been beating these games so long that now that when we beat them, I play them modded up. So the mod I have on this game auto does the seals for me. I never have to do the seals. So if I'm talking about my true experience playing this game on the actual DS, it's a terrible time. I'd give it like a C, dude, because that seal shit is bullshit. That seal shit is like, I'd give it a C or a D, dude. I really would. But playing it where it does the auto seal, which it should do in my opinion, because it's like you found the seal. Once you find the seal, it should just do the auto seal. You know what I'm saying? Like the auto seal, how I in my opinion, how it should have worked is like, if you know it, you don't have to find it. You can just do it, you know? But if you don't know it, then you have to find it, and then you could just do, you see what I'm saying? So anyways, how I play it normally, I'd give it like a C. I'd give it like a C. It changes the art style. The characters look a little stiff. It has some really cool moments. By the way, Julius Belmont is back, because in Order of Ecclesia, you bring the whole Belmont clan village back together, and then they begin the whole Belmont lineage. But Belmont skipped for a century, essentially, with the Morris family. So now the Belmonts are back in town. So Julius Belmont is running shit. After Bloodlines, before Aria of Sorrow, there was essentially a Dracula war. We don't get that game at all, but that's when Belmont pretty much came back. So yeah, that's the main timeline game. All the other games down here are technically not canon. They were canon at sometimes they weren't. But yeah, so yeah, now let's go through the rest of these games.